when loads of manufacturing jobs require a PhD.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, focused on offering smart business buying solutions, leaving time to focus on growth. More at amazonbusiness.com. And by Progressive Insurance with Snapshot. Learn more about Snapshot at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents.
I'm David Brancaccio. First to a spot where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump economic policies overlap. Both candidates want to eliminate federal tax on tips. 2.5% of the labor force earns money from tips. It's a proposal that delights many and worries others. Here's Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes.
More than a third of tip workers have incomes that are so low, they already don't pay any federal income taxes.
So if somebody's tax liability is already zero, and you want to reduce their tax liability, you can't go any lower.
That's Indiana University accounting professor Bridget Stomberg. She says there's concern that these tax policies would treat workers with similar incomes differently. For example,
you make $32,000 a year as a cashier, and I make $32,000 a year as a waitress, and part of my income is tips, and none of your income is tips. All of a sudden, I pay less tax than you do just by virtue of the fact that I'm a waitress and you're a cashier.
And it could make more people want to trade in being a cashier for being a waitress. Garrett Watson's a senior policy analyst at the Tax Foundation.
I would expect to see the restaurant industries that have tipping as a major source of income to see more interest by workers if this were to become law.
The Tax Foundation estimates that eliminating income taxes on tips would cost at least $107 billion in revenue over 10 years. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
Consumers are expecting inflation to become less of a problem, but they're worried about paying what they owe now. This is from a new report from the New York Federal Reserve. Here's Marketplace's Henry Epp.
In the short term, consumers think inflation will stay about the same at 3% in the next year. But 3 years out, they expect price increases to slow down to just 2.3%. That's the lowest level the New York Fed has recorded in its survey, a sign consumers may be feeling more optimistic about the direction of inflation after grappling with years of quickly rising prices. But they're also worried about paying their bills now. Consumers, especially those with lower incomes, think they're more likely to miss a credit card, loan, or mortgage payment in the next few months. More consumers are also finding it harder to access a line of credit now compared to a year ago, but they expect that to get easier in the year ahead. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
Yesterday, for all intents and purposes, the S&P 500 stock index closed neither up nor down. 1 week ago, we were here talking about the great plunge. Today, the S&P is right about where it was before the fall. This morning, futures are still pretty flat for the S&P. Dow futures are down 0.3%. NASDAQ futures are up 0.1%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UKG. UKG is a partner that delivers HR, pay, time, and culture solutions designed to help build a great workplace for everyone. UKG, our purpose is people. And by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers what's next in cybersecurity innovation to protect today's digital way of life. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com. And by C3 Generative AI. Verified, traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free, C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI.
What do you call the group who got the short end of globalization and deindustrialization? People who took the biggest hits in recent decades from not having advanced education. Well, an analysis in The Economist magazine refers to people who feel left behind in America. Both the Trump-Vance ticket and the Harris-Walz ticket seek policies to boost the livelihoods of those who lost out under the freer trade system, even as economists work to demonstrate that others got better jobs as a result. The Economist has data showing left behind people have been seeing improvement over the Trump and Biden administrations. Zanny Minton-Beddoes is editor-in-chief of that magazine. She joins us from the UK. Hey, Zanny.
Hi, David. Great to join you.
So your team's been tracking some, improvement for people who ended up on the wrong side of what some call neoliberal policies? How do you have that figured?
Well, first of all, it has been, over the last generation, a pretty tough time for people who did not have a college degree, people who were often in what's called, the Rust Belt parts of the country, And the relative improvement in wages that you get if you went to college relative to someone who did not finish high school was in 1979 about 60%. By 2016, it had risen to 170%. So basically, people who did not finish high school, who only had a high school education, saw a tremendous hit in terms of their wages. That's the quintessential left behind person. But actually what has happened in the last 8 years or so is that college wage premium has shrunk dramatically. Wage growth amongst less skilled Americans in recent years has been much faster than amongst people with higher skills. And the unemployment rate has been much lower. The traditional Rust Belt states, which by and large, as you know, are swing states, actually have had lower unemployment rates than the national average by and large.
The analysis in The Economist magazine doesn't think industrial policy is helping all that much in improving the lives of people left behind. How come?
Actually, a lot of the manufacturing subsidies and a lot of that money that was passed hasn't really been spent yet. It's all just coming on stream. So you could say, well, it's too early to tell. It's got a lot to do with the fact that the economy has been running really hot. Both President Trump and President Biden ran huge fiscal stimulus, big budget deficits. There was also a big rise in state minimum wages.
When you're talking about manufacturing jobs and the lack of manufacturing jobs and bringing manufacturing jobs to the United States, we should no longer equate that with lower skilled people with, say, high school educations. Modern manufacturing jobs aren't what they used to be.
That is absolutely right. Since 2016, the number of men with PhDs working in manufacturing has risen by 50%. Manufacturing is increasingly a high-skill, high-end activity. You shouldn't assume that more manufacturing jobs means more jobs for male workers of the sort that I think both Donald Trump and President Biden have in mind when they're talking about bringing good manufacturing jobs back to the United States.
Zanny Minton-Beddoes, editor-in-chief of The Economist magazine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
We also talk more about the decline of manufacturing jobs and the decline of factory job pay relative to average pay during the first Trump and current Biden administrations. There will be a link at Marketplace Online for that. I'm David Brancaccio, Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.